Child custody in Georgia is determined based on a statute in the law. It's written down. It's very clear. It almost gives you guidance as far as what you need to do to prepare to try to fight for custody. It's all listed under the statute from A to Q. A lot of things have to do with stability. I'm not going to kind of go through the whole thing and read it to you, but you can look up, if you Google best interest of the child statute in Georgia, you can get the whole list. You don't even need any numbers or anything like that. A lot of things like the love, care, and affection for the child, understanding the child's needs. Some of the ways that the court might dig into that is by asking you, like, what are your child's emotional needs? Who's their best friend? Who is their teacher? Who was their teacher last year? Okay. The court also has to consider any family violence that is occurring. The primary thing being the safety and well-being of your child. Stability. That word is used a lot in several of those factors. All right. If one person is moving out of state and the child's in a stable school, got friends, got a support system around them, the court's gonna be less likely to just uproot everything in that child's life just because that parent wants to move to another state. I mean, they're free to move to another state, but they can't just strip the other parent out of the child's life. Another big thing is the bond between your child and their siblings. So that can get tricky when it comes to if your spouse had children from another marriage. Because think about it. Now in the divorce, you're going to have no right to even ask for custody of those stepchildren. And if your spouse is keeping their stepchildren and your child has developed a close emotional bond with those step siblings, then that's something the court's really going to look at. They may not want to split up those siblings. The court's also going to look at each parent's ability to take care of the child's needs. You know, if you got one parent who just can't keep a job, who can't keep a place, who keeps getting evicted, who just is unable to adequately provide for just the basic needs, then they're probably not going to get custody. The home environment of each parent's very important. So if y'all have already separated and living in separate houses, and one parent is in a roach-infested place, and one parent is OCD and has everything nice and neat, that's going to be very important to the court too. It's going to be really important that you're involved in your child's extracurricular activities in school and medical appointments. Involvement with your child is key. Each parent's employment schedule, and whether they're flexible to be able to change that schedule, because things happen with kids, and that flexibility makes somebody more able to take care of those things that come up. Physical health. If one parent is very physically healthy and one parent can't even get out of bed, well, that's very important. So there are a lot of factors. There are other ones as well. And we can help guide you as to what evidence we can present to the court to support your argument for custody. But again, it's all about what's in the best interest of your child. There are several important parts to a parenting plan. A parenting plan is just basically a schedule, a document written in paper that's eventually signed by a judge that is enforceable, that says where your child is every single day of the year. You're going to have to live with this parenting plan, and so it's very important to get it right. We're going to have to determine who's going to make the decisions for major decisions about school or non-emergency health care, extracurricular, and religion. And we're going to also determine, where the exchange for the child's going to be, when it's going to be, every single detail for what the rules are for you and your spouse to co-parent effectively and get your child where they need to be, and hopefully decrease the tension between you, because there's not somebody who's making decisions from day to day as to whether or not the child's going to be with them or the other parent. It's in black and white. You just follow the rules. Now, just because you have a parenting plan in black and white doesn't mean you have to do everything just like that. If you have a relationship with the other co-parent, and y'all are able to say, hey, I've got this going on. I've got a wedding. I know it's your weekend, but I mean, it's a wedding. Can you swap with me? Oh yeah, sure. Look, y'all can do what you want as long as y'all agree. But sometimes you might have a co-parent who kind of abuses that and asks for it all the time. And it's nice to have a document that you can simply go on, and rather than say, no, this is my time. Remember, this is not your time. This is time that you get with your child. All right? It's all about the child. Keep your focus about your child. And there are some common things that are in a lot of parenting plans, and one thing is holidays. We got to know where they're going to be on holidays, where they're going to be on their birthday. Okay, these are required things that if they're missing from your parenting plan, the judge might reject it. And so we'll be here to guide you through all of the things that are necessary, and make sure that you have a rock solid parenting plan that will help you have a peaceful future with your co-parent. So now you're divorced. You've got a custody plan, but you want to change it. So how do you do that? Well, you got to go back to court. If you got a court order signed by a judge, it's there until it's changed by another court order signed by the judge. But there's got to be some kind of change. Normally, the court isn't just going to look at the same facts and just mysteriously come to a different decision. All right? There's got to be some kind of reason, some kind of justification for that change. One of the things that's very important to what the court sees as the best interest of the child is stability. So for the court to break that stable schedule, they're going to need a good reason. And so that change of circumstance is key to the modification, and you've got to have evidence of that change. Another time that's very frequent for a modification to happen is when a child turns 14 in Georgia, because then they get some say-so in which parent that they want to live with. And so the court can go contrary to what the child wants if the court finds that it's not in their best interest, but it's usually got to be a pretty big deal that will justify going against what a 14-year-old wants. Because once a child reaches 14, 15, 16, 17, it's a little bit harder to force them to do things, to get in the car. You can't just pick them up and throw them in the car seat like when they were 2. And so the court wants to start giving them a little bit of autonomy. They're going to be an adult in a couple years. What they want is important. If you have a 14 or higher age child who wants to live with you, even if the other parent doesn't agree, you can seek a modification to be able to bring them into your home. And the other thing is, when do you file for that modification? There is no minimum amount of time that you have to wait after your divorce to be able to modify that custody. You get your first modification without any kind of a minimum time, because right after the divorce, everybody's changing, things change, and you might need something immediately. But later on, after that first modification, you've got to wait 2 years before you can file another modification of custody. If you're dealing with custody issues with your child and time with your child, what's more important than that? And so if you've got a custody issue, you really don't want to go it alone. you need some guidance. And if you need some guidance, then come talk to Daniels and Taylor. One of my attorneys here will be happy to guide you in the right direction.